Boys and girls gather here tonight to question voices in the night. Rumbles, creaks in the candlelight, where we question if we are truly alone. Philosophy cannot tell us, we will never truly know. Where skeletons lay and zombies roam, twisting and turning in their deathly groans. The dead roam the night softly, forever alone. Will the phantoms reunite on our front doorstep without a light? Halloween is the time of fear, and well and truly, I'll hold it near. Today we take a journey into a madman's mind. With every night, a world he finds. Some are peaceful, others upsetting. These ones here are truly unsettling. So grab some popcorn in delight, but beware, you'll sleep with the covers on tonight. Ha ha ha!
Autumn has thrust itself upon us once again, folks. And you know what that means? Leaves have fallen down, winter is months away, Reynards has made its wonderfully painful introduction back into my life. And you know what else about autumn is special? My brand new album, link in the description. Alright, I'll shut up and get on with it. What's really cool about autumn is obviously the good old Hallows Eve. Halloween, the scariest time of the year. So what did I think I'd make a video on to celebrate the spookiest time of the year? Well, we turn all the way back to dreams. I've talked about dreams before on this channel, as many of you know. It's got 142 views, like what the f. However, I did leave one question unanswered. What dreams do I have that I cannot awake from? You see, being a lucid dreamer is a pretty cool thing, but sometimes, and I'll be brutally honest here, it's the worst thing. So strap on your socks and make sure you have spare underwear, because today's episode is gonna be a scare. First of all, I'm gonna start this off by explaining what a lucid nightmare is. When you're a lucid dreamer, you're constantly aware of your state of consciousness, and because of that, things can become excessively overwhelming. Many times you'll start realizing you're dreaming and then immediately start stressing out about it. And please remain calm if this ever happens to you, by the way. Take a deep breath, or wake up. I mean, that is a pretty good option, just wake up. It's seriously really easy, but whatever. When stressing out in a lucid dream too much, you'll either wake up badly, or it will turn into a lucid nightmare. And oh boy, lucid nightmares are the scariest dreams one can even imagine. So today, I'm going to be telling you about some of the scariest lucid dreams I've ever had. Viewer discretion advised. This might be a bit disturbing for many people. Number 5. The Wormhole. This dream came to me late one night whilst I was sleeping over at my Nana and Granby's, and oh boy, if it's not creepy, it got my brain overloading. It went something a bit like this. I woke up. I was in my old house, in the crib, when I'd realised I was only 3. It was dark, but I could see a slight light from the window projecting onto the room's corners, creating shadows around the crib and all over me. I knew I must have been asleep. I looked down at my hands. I knew I must have been dreaming. Whilst I knew that I was dreaming, I almost had a memory block of actually getting to the dream. I knew I was dreaming, but I couldn't remember what happened before. It was like I was a toddler again, oblivious of anything this dream had to offer. And then, as I tried blinking to open up my eyes, nothing. I couldn't wake up. I was stiff. Then, a crack of celestial light grew across my room, opening up a small wormhole. I tried to stare at it, but it blurred my entire perception and it made the room all distorted and fuzzy. I slowly began colliding towards the wormhole. I tried not to get any closer, but I couldn't. I felt powerless as this thing grew closer and closer towards me, swallowing all light in its path. And then, I was in a supermarket, now about 6 or 7 years old, looking for someone. I couldn't remember who I was looking for, but I kept listening to this voice. It sounded so familiar, but unlike any voice I've ever heard before. That's when I hit a corner. The walls and shelves grew gigantic to me in comparison. I shrunk to my environment. It closed itself around me. It was like I was in a giant maze. I could hear the voice getting closer, but I turned to see who it was. A tall, disheveled, broken body with a twisted head and bulging, flickering red eyes lit up like a fire in a forest. It stared me down and began running for me. I belted forward as fast as my legs would go, hoping to wake up or at least to change the scenario of the dream, but But then the thing started to get close and it began screaming a horrifying screech. Its jaw dropped to the floor and then it extended its arm out to grab me. But then another wormhole opened and the whole supermarket became a disoriented chew. I ran as fast as I could to get back to the portal, but the thing kept pulling me back and I kept losing energy. It was like whenever I gained speed, it was taken away. I had no chance now. I needed to end the dream. I needed this dream to end. I wanted it to end. The hall kept getting longer and longer and longer, and I could never get to the exit, and then it got me. And I woke up. Now, for reference about just how disturbing the others are, that was the least scariest dream of the bunch. And with that warning, let's get into imposter syndrome. Now, I'll admit, this gets pretty graphic, but stick with me here. Basically, the stream started where I was in my room chilling when I received a message on my phone saying, "Open the front door." And as weird as that message was, I had to go see what was at the front door. I opened it, and there was a box with a label on it which read, "Open the box and follow the instructions closely." I opened the box, and to my surprise, I was greeted by a note, which read "Confidential" on it. I read the note, and on the note, it read this: "Do not tell anyone about the truth. You know where you are, they don't. Before you read more, we advise you that everyone you know has been replaced by alien shapeshifters. They're all among you as you read this. No one here is real. Do not trust any of these people. They're all imposters and they are dangerous. None of these people are your friends or your family, and do not let them tell you otherwise." After reading the note, I panicked a bit. I had to take out everyone I knew, and I even felt bad just thinking that. But I knew the job had to be done. I started off with one of my friends, and before I even set foot in the door, I had noticed something was off. He looked different, he had a really red tint to his face, and he had an excessive amount of sweat. Like, whenever I look at his eyes, he just turned completely red and his pupils would grow abnormally large. I started off with the basics. I came into the house and asked him a few questions. We went into this office and I asked him, "How do I know this is you, man?" And he snapped back with a slightly nervous, "What do you mean?" His face began to redden and sweat quickly. I followed this up by saying, "Yeah, how do I know? I mean, I'm working for the Memory Loss Foundation and I need to make sure that your memory is top tier." With the brilliant excuse executed, I began asking him some personal questions. "What's your favourite colour?" "Green." "That's weird. I thought it was cyan," I replied curiously, getting slightly torn off around his eyes. Then he began sweating buckets at a time now, and it was clear that something about him was clearly off. "What's your favourite subject?" "English." "Strange that. I thought it was history." The thing standing ahead of me now looked less like my friend and more like a melting ice cream, with sweat dripping down all over, soaking the floor of the room. Then I hit him with the ultimate. "When's your birthday?" "July 3rd. Odd. You would be correct if it wasn't redacted." I raised my voice. I knew this wasn't who I knew, and I had to do something about it. "I knew something was off with you this whole time. Who do you think you are? 'Cause you're certainly not..." I screamed at the top of my lungs, backing up to the wall away from the melting creature, who hardly even looked human anymore. Then he came right after me with a scream that sounded so horrifying it could hardly be anything human. It spoke like him, but deep down, I knew this was an alien. He leapt to attack me as his hands ripping into claws. As he jumped with me, I saw just how bad he was sweating. He was melting, and quickly, in a moment of desperation, I grabbed the fire extinguisher from the corner of the room and sprayed it directly at his scorching face. He squealed horrifically in pain, melting down to the neck. Underneath Thomas's now gone head were a set of 4 alien tentacles, much like a plant. The thing tried to come after me, but I slammed its head in the fire extinguisher and sprayed its ugly face. It then ripped to shreds in flames, and all that remained was a thick, jelly-like drop of blood. I scoured the room, hoping he was alive somewhere, hoping that I could save him from the parasite, until I checked the locked cupboard, where he was there, with the parasite leached onto his head, like in the movie Aliens. I sprayed the creature with fire, and eventually it deformed down into a tiny bloody blob. I had saved... Redacted. I didn't stop to check his pulse. I looked at him, and he was clearly dead. He was pale white, with no blood. He was gone. I then no-clipped to my school, ran past my tutor room, hid for a minute, then planned my execution. Then, after a minute, I ran into the room, fire hydrant in hand, and sprayed the entire room top to bottom, trying not to look at the horrors of what I had just done, the bodies I had just burned. All I saw was a puff of smoke, and a ton of ear-bleeding alien squeals. The smoke cleared out, then I saw it. The parasites were everywhere, on the walls, in the bodies of the people I had melted, and hanging from the ceilings and lights. One of the other students that had been sprayed had grabbed me by the neck, leached onto me, tearing into my skin through my torn shirt. I punched it in its alien mouth and I sprayed it directly in its face for a good 12 seconds, screaming and yelling at the monster that was doing the exact same thing at me. It was long gone dead. I kicked it 3 times to make sure of that. After I beat the creature's face inward, I stared at the horrors of the classroom, a bloodbath. Bodies upon bodies of parasite-infected people. The damage was horrific. I knew this was a dream, but this wasn't okay. I felt a drop in my gut. As much as I knew these people weren't real, I had killed them brutally either way, and I couldn't let that remain. So I cut the wires to the laptop, drenched it in lots and lots of water, and eventually a fire broke out. Then the ceiling came crashing down with hundreds of people then falling down to their gruesome deaths, all of them emitting the same horrific screams, the same screams. I sprayed it all with the fire extinguisher in a rage, screaming, "Die, you aliens, die!" I didn't ever look back. All I heard was the same screams echoing on and on. Forever. It wouldn't end. I let go of the fire extinguisher and collapsed to the floor in pain. My scar deep in my chest, throbbing like it never before. I couldn't get back up. I was suffering so badly. But eventually, I found my feet and stood up on 2 legs. I may have had a fatal scar in my chest, but that wasn't going to stop me. I needed all of these parasites to die, and quickly. I got up and screamed into the ruins. "Is that all you've got? I will keep on burning you all until you finally die, whether it costs any other thing. I'm not leaving this dream till I've killed you all." Then, I looked behind me, and to my horror, was Rithik. I looked at him in great pain, and he screamed at me, "I don't know who you're trying to impress, Dexter, but you certainly won't defeat us." I looked at him with sorrow, and mumbled, "I'm so sorry, Rithik. So sorry, but it has to be done." And as the alien loudly screeched at me, I punched it directly in its melting face, delivering blow to blow until the blood of the creature covered my entire shirt. I couldn't beat him to death. This was clearly too much for me. In agony, I wielded the hydrant and sprayed so hard I could have broken my finger. I wouldn't let go of the trigger until I knew the alien was dead. It was so agonizing doing this to this man who'd been such a good friend with me. Even if he was an imposter, it was a wound taken deeper than my actual wounds themselves. I kept spraying the thing until the screeching was completely over. I screamed loudly at the thing, "Die!" And then, I let go, wheezing in agonizing pain. My scar was now bleeding out, and I was crawling for help, trying to escape. Then, I heard a noise behind me. A voice. It sounded just like mine.
"Dexter."
I looked behind me in horror to see myself, floating over the remains, sweating vigorously, looking just as infected as the others.
"Just join us."
I looked back at myself. "Never!" It spoke again.
"We could be together, Dexter. We can make this dream a reality. We can control this world and everyone in it. We don't ever need to wake up to a mundane world ever again."
I had nothing to do to stop him. I was powerless. A parasite leaped towards my face, clambering onto me and attaching itself tightly. I struggled to breathe.
"It'll only hurt for just a second,"
he said. I was fading into darkness, slowly, with every part of my body. I was dying. Then, I screamed at him. "Not if I can do this!" And I began to open my eyes slowly. As I did so, I saw myself flying above the ruins. A gigantic pillar fell on top of my clone, almost killing him instantly. If then, only for a split second, it revealed its true self. A tall, slender, mother-like alien with parasites leeching onto it for food. It was nothing but grisly remains in the shape of a body. I picked up the thing and I threw it towards another concrete pillar. It fell down into the pile of bodies, and it began to disappear into flames as I woke up. To a crow screeching outside my window. Number 3. The mirror. In this dream, me and my parents had moved to this new place in London, the grisly part of London. And I don't know if it was just me, but something about the house always seemed off. Like, it just always felt so weird in this dream. As we unpacked, You might as well have told me the house was haunted, because every moment I came into the living room, I heard noises from every corner of it. And it always seemed like the glass in windows would scream at you, and horrific, ear-bleeding shudders would emit from all of them, especially the mirrors. Something told me that the mirrors were just off. Now, as I unpacked into my room, I looked down at my hands and concluded that this was a dream. But there was a fuse in my head telling me I wouldn't wake up, so I didn't. Somehow, I got stuck in this dream, at first seeming mundane, but then I heard a scream coming from the mirror in the bathroom, and praying that it wasn't one of my family members, I went to go have a look, and was greeted with the most horrifying sight I've ever seen in my life. A screaming figure, presumably a phantom, looking back at me. At first I didn't notice, but when I did, I freaked out, and fell over to the other side of the bathroom, running downstairs to tell my parents. But then, something felt off again. The house had this eerie, upside down kind of vibe to it. Everything was normal, but almost as if in slow motion and ghostly. I ran to my mum to warn her that something was off, and the house was haunted, and she didn't respond. She wasn't facing me. I turned to her side, to see the face on hers, screaming harshly at me on eye contact. I ran upstairs to try and wake up, but it was hopeless. I was stuck. I ran to my dad's room, but he wasn't there. I ran to the bathroom, locking the door from the phantom, and looked in the mirror in horror to see the phantom's face on me. Number 2, Mary. This dream was actually quite short, unlike the Hollywood blockbuster that the last one was, but it went something along the lines of this. I woke up in a dark room with people chanting ominously, summoning some sort of a demon, I presume. The room had 6 candles, all in the shape of a star. The chanting only lasted a few minutes before I heard a creepy, worn-down church bell ring 13 times. Then, a creepy choir song began playing around the chanters. The room lit up with the eyes of a demon, and everybody began screaming. It wasn't more the case that the dream was actually scary, it's just the fact that the scream was so loud, it genuinely made me crap myself. In fact, I even woke up to actual screams, until I realised it was a bloody fox. Before I take the number 1 spot, here are some honourable mentions. Isolation. Being on a completely abandoned spaceship with no one on it is scary and all, just there's no real threat here to keep me scared. The house at night. This one is more or less unnerving, not downright scary. Walking around an empty house during a giant storm in completely isolated terms is creepy, but not scary. Train. Being on a train with dead people is certainly creepy as hell, but not scary enough to make the top 5. Shadows. Shadows rustling around the corners of my room for 4 minutes is also incredibly unnerving, but there's much more scarier things that are higher up here. Limbo. Limbo is a creepy place, but only a part of this dream was creepy, and that was dying. Now the other dreams were nothing compared to this one. This was hands down the scariest dream I've ever had, and even writing this script now, I'm getting chills. At number 1, we have... Okay, now let's set the scene. It was just a simple party with my friends over, but something kept feeling off. Me and my friends were only ever upstairs, and I had the sudden urge to go downstairs, but all my friends agreed that going downstairs was a no-go. I was really thirsty, so I went. I now never go downstairs in these kind of dreams. As I went downstairs, the whole room went dark, and was filled with a never-ending corridor, the never-ending pitch-black particles flying through, dust, specks, etc. The whole room was empty, but I could hear this ominous drone in the background as I walked through, hearing my heartbeat pulsing slowly through my ears, like those parts in horror games where you have to walk down to the other side of the creepy hallway, except there was no end to the hallway. At some points, I could hear walking and loud echoing screams. There was no way out of this. I was getting my water and going straight back upstairs. I looked back, hoping to see the stairs leading back up, but now they were gone. I kept walking with the screams getting louder and louder and a horrible feeling in my gut worsening with every step. I was terrified. I wanted to go back, but I couldn't. I kept walking. Then I heard a horrifying scream and ran for my life. I didn't know where to go, but I had to run. I heard the floorboards in front of me move, and in the pitch black in front of me, I saw 2 deep white eyes staring back at me. Then they got closer and closer. It was the shadow of a girl, running towards me, screaming bloody murder. I tried to run, but I kept tripping up. I couldn't go faster and faster, but I couldn't. I could feel her cold, ghostly presence right behind me, getting closer and closer, and then I tripped down, skidding right back up into her face. She dropped her mouth and screamed at me, my whole world blackening in a horrifying noise. Then my vision faded to static. Eventually, I opened my eyes, and I was in a coffin at a funeral. I could hear people's voices singing. It was unlike any singing I had ever heard. It was broken, off-tone and creepy, with weird bell noises gonging in the background. I could see the people, but not their faces. Their faces were completely blacked out. I tried to breathe, but I couldn't. My chest tightened, and then I opened my eyes again. I was in my room, in my bed, but the people were tall shadows lurking over me. I tried to get up and run, but I couldn't. I was confined to my bed, my chest tighter than ever, my breath less than half a second. I felt like I was dying. The shadows groaned and mumbled inhumane noises like static on a TV. The morning had gone from mumbled singing and speech to staticky screeches and mumbles. Then they looked down, much like they were doing a prayer, and puffed into smoke. I woke up in terror and ran to my parents, and I'm not even joking, I couldn't sleep for days after that. I've experienced these sort of things about 3 times in my life, and they scare the crap out of me every single time it happens. Fortunately, I got help and it doesn't really happen anymore. But holy crap, it still scares me talking about it. Anyways, that was my blockbuster-style movie on nightmares. And this video took about 2 months, I'm not even joking. So I want to thank you for watching this far and getting scared along with me. Thanks for watching, and sweet dreams.